This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft zone.
Who else could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where I aim to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2015 NFL Draft by simply looking at each and every team's draft, by picking apart every single pick made by said team, getting a grade for each and every single pick using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so, we get an aggregate score by tallying up all of the individual grades, dividing by the number of picks, adding and applying bonuses when necessary, and we come up with our final grade for that team's draft. Move on to the next team in the process, picked by you. That's right, you, the viewers, have the freedom and the absolute full control over who's next by simply being the first to leave a post in the comment section of the video stating two things: the phrase next, N-E-X-T, next, and the team you'd like to see next. I don't care how you phrase it, you just gotta be first, and the team you want to see first has to be in that section, in that comment, and the phrase next needs to be in there as well. So that is how you get your squad or some other squad up on the program next, by simply being the first to leave that comment in the comment section with the two necessary requisites. So we've got all the particulars out of the way. You, the viewers at home, have spoken, and the next team up in the series is none other than the Minnesota Vikings. Skull Vikings! And so, you know what I do love about this Vikings team? I love their general manager, because he's very transparent, okay? Say what you want about Rick Spielman, he's a very transparent GM. When he says something, he means it. There's not a lot of, subliminal messages, and you don't have to read between the lines or take a context clue from what he just said. If he says, we're building our team through the draft, we're not going out and chasing a lot of free agents, he means he's building his team through the draft. We saw that last season, a lot of contributors from that team's draft a season ago, and he said, hey, we're not chasing a lot of high-priced free agents. They went down that road before, i.e. Greg Jennings. It did not work. This is something that he has made a very strong stance on, and really has put emphasis on in the last couple of years. We're not going to chase free agents. We're going to build this team through the draft. And if you look at this team, that's exactly what Rick Spielman and company are doing in Minnesota. And because of drafts like the one I'm about to talk about, and the one that they put forth last season, and even the year before that, this Vikings team is slowly becoming a very young and talented football team with enough firepower to potentially unseat the Green Bay Packers in this division. Now, it's going to take a little stroke of luck and some guys staying healthy, staying out of trouble. Hey, look, you need that in this league. You look at the teams who win, you look at the teams who are the healthiest at the end of the year, there's usually a direct correlation. Nothing different here with the Vikings. If they can stay healthy and guys can mature at proper positions, this team could be one of the sleeper teams in the NFC in the upcoming season. Let's talk about why I feel so good about this Vikings team moving forward. Talk about their 2015 NFL Draft. We start in the first round. 11th overall selection, cornerback out of Michigan State, Trey Waynes is the selection. This one was a no-brainer for me. I talked about it all season leading up to the draft. I said it's one of two players here at number 11 for the Minnesota Vikings. If they want to go offense, it's Devontae Parker, wide receiver out of Louisville. You'll be tagging him back up with his college teammate, Teddy Bridgewater. If you want to go that route, if you want to stay on the defensive side of the football, and you had to know head coach Mike Zimmer wants another corner, then you knew the pick was Trey Waynes. It was simple for me. Which one was the Vikings going to go with? I said, if it's up to the head coach, if he has the type of input that he wants to really put in place with this team, and he wants to put his imprint and thumbprint on this team and do it the way that he wants to do it, he's going after the corner. That's what they did. Trey Waynes is the pick. Let's talk about him. 6 foot long cornerback is his first pro. This is a guy, I talked about this with numerous corners that have been taken in this draft already to this point that I've broken down. And really, if you've been watching the league, you've been following the league, this is the trend. Longer corners because the receivers aren't getting any shorter. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger on the outside. So you need corners to match what the receivers are doing. And so this is a guy that's a longer corner at 6 feet. Very athletic. Speaking of which, he's athletically gifted. That's the next pro. We're talking about a 4'3", 140 guy. He blazed the combine with that speed, and let everybody know, not only am I the best corner coming into the draft this season, but I'm the most athletically gifted and fastest corner that you will find coming into this draft. And so he really staked the claim to be the first corner off the board in this draft with his performance at the combine, and that's why the Vikings made him the first corner off the board in this draft. Technically sound is the next pro, and this is, to me, what probably separates him from a number of the upper echelon corners in this draft, is the fact that he's so technically sound, and he needs to be, because there are some other facets of his game that he's not as adept at, and he isn't as sharp at, that will rear its ugly head from time to time. But because he's so technically sound, he's able to offset some of the things he doesn't do as well. And man, that was the thing that I came away from the tape with the most, was the fact that this guy is so technically sound, he can play. And that goes with the next pro, and we'll go ahead and jump into that right now. Comfortable in man or zone coverage, also comfortable in press or off coverage. This is a guy that will come in your face. You know how I am about this. You know how I feel. I want my corners not to be afraid to come up, challenge a guy, get in his face, and make him uncomfortable. Take away, delete the airspace, get in his face, and make him work off the line of scrimmage. But in the same breath, be able to come up, do that same thing, make him think, okay? And that's what it is. It's all mind games. Make him think. You're gonna lay hands on him, then just release, just bail, okay? Bail at the snap of the football. Quarterback takes his press coverage, so he's thinking already pre-snap, I'm going to have to go elsewhere with the football. You bail off the snap. It's a different look. Or he can play off in zone coverage. He can play off man coverage and still be effective. He can put the receiver on his hip and really stack him and keep him really close to the sidelines. And you know, as a defender, you use the sidelines as another defender, as that 12th man if you can, and he does it beautifully. If you want to see a great example of him being technically sound, turn on the tape against Nebraska at home. Stacks the receiver, puts him on his hip, locates the football. He's literally shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip with the receiver, locates the football, stride for stride, finds it, picks it off. You can't do it any better. He pressed him at the line of scrimmage to start the play, puts him in his hip pocket, uses the sideline to stack him, finds the football, picks it off. You can't do it much better than that. And that's why I said this guy is technically sound. He plays the cornerback position like a guy that's been playing in the league for 5 years already, but he's coming into the league with some skills that you generally don't see young corners coming into the league with. And to me, that's what separates him from some of the other guys that we mentioned, like a Marcus Peters or some of these other guys that were taken high in this draft at the cornerback position. He's ready to go right now. There's some things he's got to work on, as there always is with draftees, but he is technically sound. He's not perfect, but he's got a lot of things going for him that a number of corners can't say they have at this time in their careers. He's very physical. He's got a physical mentality, okay? That's the next pro. Physical mentality. For a guy his size, you don't expect the level of physicality you get, but that's why this guy was the first corner taken in this draft, okay? He'll come up. I just talked about him not being afraid. He doesn't have that mental capacity that says, all right, I'm a smaller guy, he's a bigger receiver, I shouldn't get in his face. That doesn't exist with Trey Waynes. He's going to get in your face and he's going to challenge you. It's just a part of his mental DNA makeup. So he's going to get in your face, but also coming up and challenging guys in the run game and being physical. It's not always the prettiest, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's going to get in there. He's going to get in the fray. A lot of these corners don't want to get in the fray. They don't want to mix it up unless it's a necessity, unless they have to. Okay, if you force my hand, I'll jump in there and I'll help you out. But I would prefer to stay back 7-10 yards off the ball, let you guys in the front seven handle all of that dirty stuff, and I'm gonna stay clean back here and look pretty. That's not Trey Waynes, and that's not what he's about. If the running play comes his way, he's looking to throw his helmet, shoulder, legs, knees, toes, elbows, all of that is going in the mix. Somebody's going down on the ground, whether it's him, ball carrier, teammate, I don't know. A lot of times he doesn't even know when he's hitting, he's just throwing his weight around, okay? And so, I like the physicality, okay? I can appreciate that. He's got a physical mentality. And that goes with the next two pros, and let's go ahead and throw them in there. Willing tackler and a purposeful blitzer. Those are the next two pros. This is a guy that, like I just said, he's willing to come up and be physical, whether it's actually jamming at the line of scrimmage, getting in the face of a receiver, laying hands on him, or just getting into the play and trying to make a tackle on somebody. He's willing and able, but I'll talk about his tackling ability a little bit later on because there are some issues there, as you can tell by the way I've been kind of pussyfooting around actually saying that he's a great tackler. He's willing to do it, and that's the first part of being a tackler in this league is the mentality. You gotta want to do it. Just like rebounding in basketball, tackling in football for corners and safeties is a mentality. You gotta want to do it. This guy wants to do it. He's a purposeful blitzer. He's a guy that won't get a lot of sacks when he blitzes. And he doesn't tip his hand. It's not because he doesn't want to get sacked. It's because a lot of times he's coming from so far away. He's not a slot guy. He's usually on the outside. So if you're blitzing a guy and he's 15 yards away from the quarterback, chances of him getting to the quarterback getting a sack, highly unlikely. However, he comes in and he's blowing stuff up. Fullback back there, running back back there, and pass pro, he's laying a shoulder into that guy. And one time I actually saw him go in with so much force into the running back that he blew the running back into the quarterback, threw the quarterback off balance. Quarterback had to get out of the pocket, ended up throwing the football away. So he can impact the play and not even get a hand on the quarterback. He's a purposeful blitzer. Also gives you some special teams value. Going to be a guy that'll probably be on just about every special teams you have. And so you get value there as well. When you're a young guy coming into the league, that's something you got to do. And this is a guy that will do that for you. So you get special teams value and can also return a punt or two if you need him to. I don't think you want Trey Waynes doing that for you anyhow. You got guys that can do that. But in a pinch, he's a guy that can do that for you as well. You go to his cons. This is the one that I have the biggest issue with. He's a featherweight. I need this guy to put on some weight and fast. I'm talking about when the season starts, I need this guy to at least be a $195. He was 186 at the combine, and he could have put on some weight since then. I sure hope so, because that was the one thing that concerned me the most on tape was this guy is a featherweight. You rarely see elite corners be 195, 190 pounds. That's just not how it works. You want to be in a elite corner, a physical corner, you need to be around 200 pounds. Not saying you got to be at or above 200, but you need to be at least a $198, a $196. This kid at 186 wants to be physical. He wants to throw his weight around, but as many tapes as I watched, at least 3 or 4 of them, at some point he got hurt in the game. And that's just because he's a featherweight. You turn on the Baylor tape. He struggled in that game. That might have been his worst collegiate game, and it also happened to be his last collegiate game. And Antoine Goodley, the receiver for Baylor, puts a shoulder into him that knocked him into next week. Couldn't get up. They had to stop the game. Trainers had to come out. He walked off gingerly. Didn't see him for the rest of the first half. Did come back in the second half, however. But that's just, he's a featherweight, man. And if he's 200 pounds, maybe that hit still has the same effect on him because it was a nasty, vicious shot. But you put a little bit more weight on this guy and he's not getting hurt all the time. I'm seeing his helmet flying off and he's always one of the last guys up. He's getting off the field gingerly. He needs to put on some weight. No form when tackling. Remember I talked about earlier, he's willing, he's able, but there was something missing there. There's a key ingredient. It's called form. You know what they teach you when you're in, Pee Wee and Pop Warner football? Form. He has none of it. This guy comes up and there is absolutely no rhyme or reason to the way he tackles. It's just, hey, I'm gonna grab you, whether I'm standing up straight or I'm grabbing you at your neck or I'm grabbing you in your chest or I'm diving, don't see what I'm hitting. There was one time he dove, he hit nobody. Now, the intentions were great. He lined the guy up, he was running towards out of bounds, he thought he was gonna cut him. He dove, ducked his head, dove, hit nothing. Might have took out the guy holding the chain game. Might have took him out, didn't touch the player though with the football. So he has no form whatsoever when he goes up to tackle. He just grabs stuff, okay? Whatever he gets his hands on, he's not gonna let you go, and you're most likely going down, but it's not pretty. He does not get style points for the way that he tackles, and that is a problem sometimes. He lacks natural ball skills. Now, this is something that could hurt him down the road, where we're talking about him getting his bread after the first contract. Because the difference between guys who break the bank as corners and guys who get paid good money is, can you make plays? Are you a playmaker? Do you change the game? When quarterbacks come your way, do you make them pay for mistakes or do they get another chance? Do-over, I want a do-over. Do you allow them to get a do-over? Oh, I made a bad throw, a big mistake there. Luckily enough for you, I'm Ike Taylor and I can't catch, so you get another chance. Luckily enough for you, I'm Carlos Rogers and I can't catch and you get another chance. Are you one of those guys that's going to give the quarterback a do-over, a mulligan, or are you a guy that's going to make him pay for a mistake? You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You make a mistake, you pay for that mistake. And I want my money up front. Give me the football right now. Are you one of those guys? I don't see him as that. He had a chance in the Baylor game to make a big-time interception when his team was trailing and looking to come back, even though they ultimately did come back and win that game. Had a chance to change the game with a pick right through his hands. It couldn't have been any easier. He drops it. There's another play I'm watching. Ball goes right through his hands. Drops the football. On one of these interceptions that I saw him catch, he double caught the football, was bobbling it all over. It was an easy catch. I mean, fell right to him like a punt, and he was bobbling it all over the place. He did have a catch to secure a victory against Nebraska for an interception. He had 2 interceptions in that game, actually. Talked about one of them earlier, and then he had the game-clinching one at the end of the game. Caught it, made it look easy, and it was a wet night, nasty conditions. So he can catch. He does not have natural ball skills, though. In my estimation, if he can work on that, hours on the jug machine, maybe, just maybe, he'll develop into a guy that makes quarterbacks pay for mistakes the first time around. We'll see. Right now, I don't have a lot of confidence in him being that type of guy. He's handsy. Now, I don't necessarily look at this as a con per se, but it is a con because he's a young guy. You're not going to get respect in the league right away being handsy. Over time, you develop a rapport with the officials. They understand who you are as a player, and they'll let you slide like they do with Darrell Revis, like they do with Richard Sherman. You got to know how to play the game, and in turn, the officials will turn a blind eye to you being physical. But this was a guy that at the college game got thrown flags on quite often for being handsy down the field. This is something that he's going to have to clean up because that's his MO. He likes to put his hands on you at the line of scrimmage, past 5 yards, 40 yards down the field. It's all the same to him. He wants to lay hands on you. We'll see if he's able to get away with that at the next level. But look, this guy has the complete package. He's athletic, he's long, he can do all the things, and he's so technically and fundamentally sound already. You put him on the other side of the X-Men, and all of a sudden, the Minnesota Vikings, don't look now, they've got a comparable secondary. And you know how I feel about Harrison Smith. That's my boy. So all of a sudden now, this secondary is scary, man. Scary. They got the Jabari, I think his name is Jabari Price from North Carolina last year. A lot of little pieces that they're putting together, man. All I'm saying is, you add this guy to the mix, there's some stuff brewing in Minnesota on the defensive side of football. In the first round, 11th overall selection, cornerback out of Michigan State, Trey Waynes. It's hit hard! It's hit deep! Out of here! It's a home run for the Minnesota Vikings. They saw their man, they went and got their man, and now they got the defense that they want. Let's see if they can go out and execute what Mike Zimmer wants them to do on Sundays. You go to the second round, 45th overall selection, inside linebacker out of UCLA, Eric Kendricks. Here's a kid that I watched on tape, and I went into it with mixed emotions. He was a guy that I heard all throughout the process, first round pick, first round pick, first round pick. And then as the process kind of wore on, his name kind of faded. And I don't know if it had anything to do with, you know, the 40 time, or if teams just said, hey, this is a smaller linebacker, we're gonna pass him. I don't know what it was, but let's talk about Eric Kendricks and why he was here for the Vikings at 45, and why this could be one of the steals of this draft. His pros, he's an active linebacker. That's the first thing you notice with this guy. He's flying around sideline to sideline. Number 6 was always somewhere around the football. This is a guy that you can tell he's got a zest for the game. He loves the game of football, loves running around, having fun, and he's a very active linebacker. He's got great balance. That's the next pro. I can't tell you how many times I saw this guy bouncing off of a defender or an offensive lineman, and he's bouncing around, pirouetting and finding his way to the football. And he's a guy that, I didn't see him on the ground a lot. And for a linebacker, those are encouraging words. If someone tells you as a linebacker, man, I rarely see you on the ground, that's a great statement to hear, unless you're talking about a guy that doesn't tackle. Only time I want to see you on the ground is when you're getting a ball carrier on the ground. Other than that, I don't want to see you on the ground as a linebacker, as a defender. I don't want you on the ground. You can't make plays on the ground. And so this is a guy that stays on his feet, man. Every time I saw him get blocked, for the most part, he was on, even when they tried to cut him, he'd jump over a cut block and spin and find his way to the football, get into the fray. He's got great balance. He's athletic, 4'6", 40 athlete at the linebacker position. That's going to win you a lot of foot races in this league. When you can run at that position that fast, that means you can keep up with some tight ends, you can keep up with some backs out of the backfield. He's a guy that's athletic for his position. Tremendous coverage ability. This is one of those, he's not the best defender on his team, or wasn't at UCLA. I think that distinction goes to Miles Jack. However, this is a guy that you felt good about being in space with a linebacker or a running back one-on-one. You felt good with him out in space, in a slot with a guy, as long as they weren't 15, 20 yards down the field. If he was running a little speed out, I felt good about him running out there in coverage and running with that guy. He's a guy that you trust in coverage, and you don't really feel any type of way about him being 15 yards down the field with a running back. I don't want him down the field with a receiver, but I don't mind him trailing a running back on the play. If he can get his head around a little bit better, and that's something they'll teach him better technique, but he's there. He's around the football, tremendous coverage ability. Outstanding play recognition is the next pro, and the thing about linebackers is you gotta have a level of instincts. That's the things you can't teach. You either got instincts or you don't, right? And if you're one of these read and react linebackers and you're really slow to react to what you see, that's a problem. This is one of those guys that he understands when screen is coming. He sees that wide receiver screen coming to this side. He sees you setting up, offensive linemen gearing up to go outside and go set up this running back screen. He sees these things, he gets out there, he blows plays up. And so he has outstanding play recognition, and you saw that watching the tape. He's a playmaker. This is a guy that does a number of things. I watched the Virginia tape, first game of the season. He caused a fumble in that game also, and they called an egregious pass interference penalty on him in that game. I thought it was tremendous coverage by him. Guy running a dragger across his face. He gets in there, knocks the football away, they throw a flag. I thought it was an egregious call. All he does is bounce back from that. A couple plays later, picks the football off, takes it to the house, pick 6. He's a playmaker. Forces fumbles, recovers fumbles, picks the football off, deflects footballs, and oh by the way, makes 100 tackles every season. He's a playmaker. He's always around the football. And when you live around the football, good things happen to you 9 times out of 10. He is a tackling machine. Tackling machine. This is a guy 3 years straight of 100+ tackles at UCLA. This is a guy that gets guys with the football on the ground. You got the football, you're going down, and Eric Kendricks is going to be the one to lay you down on the ground. Couple of years, I think there were seasons where he had like 146 tackles, which is crazy. This is a guy that is around the football, all the time, and I talked about him being a playmaker. That's one of the ways you benefit from being around the football is by being a tackling machine. Takes on blockers. And this isn't a big guy. This is a 6 foot, 235 pound linebacker. So sometimes guys like him who have that type of size have a tendency to want to dance around blockers every now and again. They think, okay, I'm faster than this guy. If I dart to the left quickly and dart back inside, I can make the tackle without that guy even getting a hand on me. Without that pulling guard, that fullback, that center getting a hand on me. Wrong. What you do is you just vacate a gap and allow the running back to have a clear running lane. Don't do that. And so he's not one of those guys that's afraid of contact. He's going to stick his nose in there. He's going to take on that blocker and he's going to eat up that space. Now, is he going to defeat that block? That's debatable. Depends. But he's going to take on that blocker nonetheless. And again, there's something that can be said for just taking on blocks and doing your job. And he does that. His cons. He's diminutive. He's a 6 foot linebacker. And if you're in the inside of a defense and you're 6 feet, and the thing that struck me when watching film on him is that a lot of times guys line up about, especially when you're a shorter linebacker, take Denzel Perryman, for example. That's a guy that lines up 8, 9 yards back of the line of scrimmage so he can get a clear view of what's going on and then attack the line of scrimmage. Eric Kendricks on most plays was literally 4 yards, away from the football, 4 yards away from the line of scrimmage, 5 at most. And so he's right there behind the defensive lineman. And a lot of times he can't actually see what's going on in the backfield. So there'd be a play where the running back's got the football and he's going to the left and the quarterback is carrying out a fake to the right. And Eric Kendricks is following the quarterback as if he has the football because he doesn't know. And next thing you know, everybody's going to the left. He's running to the right and then oh wow, ball's over there. And then he starts running that way. So I saw that in one particular game about 3 times and I was like, wow, dude, you really can't see. You're too close to the line of scrimmage. So sometimes his size can be a huge detriment to him, but also in the same breath, it could be a big pro for him because you don't know where this guy is. You can't see him. He can knife into the backfield, make a play on a ball carrier. So it can be a big time pro for him. It can also be a con. It just all depends on the situation. But his size is something that I think that and maybe the fact that he ran a 4.6 140 was the reason why this guy didn't go in the first round. But hey, look, it's a great football player getting here. He's a pinballer, and that's his last con. Remember I talked about him not hitting the ground, which is great, and how he bounces around and you see him hit, somebody hits him and he's bouncing all over the place. Well, that's great because he's on his feet and he's still able to make a play, but it's also something that will take him out of plays. He's getting blocked. He bounces off of a guy, running back comes that way, wide receiver comes that way. Next thing you know, he's bounced all the way, 2, 3 steps the opposite direction of where the play is going. Next thing you know, you've opened up a convoy for a guy to run and pick up 6, 7 more yards. And if you would have just stayed there and not try to spin out of a block or bounce off of it, you would have been right there to at least plug it up and make him have to go elsewhere. So he's a pinballer at times. He can be a guy that you just really don't know where the hell he's going to end up. But man, I love this guy. I love his tape. It was clean. It was fun to watch. He makes plays. He's always around the football. Who can't use a linebacker like that? In the second round, 45th overall selection, a linebacker out of UCLA, Eric Kendricks is a triple. I really like what he brings to the table. I think he's going to help this Vikings team, and I think he's going to help them right away. I think he's actually got a chance to be better than his brother, who's already in the league, Michael Kendricks, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he has a chance to be better than his brother. We'll see how the Vikings employ this guy and how they utilize him, and if they utilize him to his strengths, then you might have a big-time football player on your hands. You got Barr from last year. You add this kid to the mix. 2 UCLA players linking back up with each other should make for some beautiful music in that defense in Minnesota. You go to the 3rd round, 88th overall selection, defensive end out of LSU. Danielle Hunter is the pick. He's got great size at 6'5", 252 pounds. This is a guy that I feel like he's got all the potential in the world. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. I really don't want to jump into it right now. He's a workout warrior / physical specimen. That is the next pro. You're talking about a guy that blazed the combine with a 4.57 40, 25 reps of 2 1/4. He looks like a Greek goddess. When you put this guy on tape and you look at him, arms are just busting out of his jersey. Kid is big and long and athletic. He can run like a deer caught. I mean, literally, he looks like a big, you remember that, the Nintendo game? I can't speak for anybody else, but I had a power pad. And you would be racing the Bobcat and the cheetah. He reminds me of the Bobcat, man, just flying. This guy, he recovers a fumble, and I don't recall what team it was against, but he recovers a fumble, and he takes off running, and there's no chance anybody's catching this guy. I mean, he scoops the fumble up, and I'm waiting for somebody from the other team to flash into the screen. I want to say it might have been Mississippi State, and I'm waiting for a brown jersey to show up, and it just wasn't one in sight. This guy was moving. He's an athletic freak. So there are so many things that this guy has that you can't teach, but there are some things that he's missing. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. He stopped at the point of attack, though. I just told you the guy is strong. You know, he's country strong, and so he's standing guys up at the point of attack. You're not moving him off the spot. He's going to be there, and he's going to make some plays as well. Had quite a number of tackle for losses last year and what was his best collegiate season of his career. So he's getting better. You can see the light bulb is starting to come on for him. There's some things he's starting to just get better at just because of more playing time, but there's still a lot of things he's got to learn as well. He plays under control though. That was one of the things. Now, he walks that fine line. There's a fine line between playing under control and just being lethargic on the field. He walks that line and he walks it very well. He's tightroping it though, but there's times where he's slow playing stuff. And again, you gotta stay at home, especially when you're playing against a team like Mississippi State, where they got that read option going. You got a scrambling quarterback guy that really wants to run the football like a Dak Prescott. And so your job is to stay backside and just be patient and stay at home. He does that. And there's situations where, you know, you're not getting to the quarterback. It's a quick throw and they're trying to cut you and you realize what's going on. Before he could even try to cut you, you jump, get your hands up, deflect the football. He's a very patient football player and doesn't rush and jump to conclusions early, so you're not going to catch him out of position very often. I like the fact that he plays under control. Tremendous upside. I can't speak to the level of upside that this guy has. It is ridiculous. The Vikings drafted him in the 3rd round, not because of his collegiate career, not because of the production that he put forth at LSU. They drafted this kid because they say to themselves, if we can coach him up, if we can teach him the nuances and the finer points of the defensive end position at this level, this guy could reap us the type of dividend that could help us capture the NFC North division. He's got that much potential. Much like what the Lions did with Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah. Okay, you take a guy that is just athletically gifted, you look at him, you say, that kid's a freak. You take him, you mold him, he's a big slab of clay, you mold him into the player you want him to be, and you hope and pray that he turns out the way that you envisioned him when you picked him. And that's what this kid is, a big slab of clay. He has no idea what he's doing on the football field. It's your job to coach him up. Put the battery in his back, okay? Right now, he is a toy soldier and he doesn't have a battery in his back. Put a battery in his back and send him on his way. That's what the Vikings are looking to do. Let's jump into his cons. Lack of collegiate statistical production, okay? This is a guy, and I just talked about this, he's not a 3rd round pick if you look at his stats. If you put on the tape, he's not a 3rd round pick. But if you look at his raw physical ability and his attributes and his characteristics, he's a 3rd round pick, and that's what the Vikings are going off of. But this guy has 4.5 career sacks. We're talking about a defensive end here, okay? So you're expecting more pressure. I'm talking about a 6'5", 252-pound defensive end. I'm not talking about a 5 technique. That's okay for a 5. We're talking about a 4-3-4 technique, a base end in a 4-3 defense. He's got 4.5 career sacks, okay? So this isn't a guy that's getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So you know that they didn't pick him because of what he did at LSU. They're picking him because of what they feel like he can be in the future. And his last con is he's raw, okay? He's got no pass rush moves whatsoever. You saw nothing that resembled a pass rush at all from this guy at LSU, which speaks to the 4.5 sacks. And he only had 23 starts at LSU, 2 seasons effectively of starting at defensive end for LSU. You know, they're a talented football team. They got guys coming, you know, out of that program every single year, it seems like, at the defensive end position. So he had to wait his turn and finally got his opportunities. and he was able to show enough on tape to have somebody jump and bite the bait. That team was the Minnesota Vikings. Look, I've already told you that the guy's talented and he's got a lot of upside, but you gotta get it out of him. He's raw as raw can be. I was talking to somebody earlier on in the draft process, and like, I would have loved to have had, you know, Danielle Hunter in the second round. I'm like, you go ahead and do that, buddy. I wouldn't recommend it because he's the type of guy that gets people fired, okay? Guy with all the potential in the world, but it never manifests itself. He could be that guy, or he could be the next Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah, because I think that guy's about to blow in Detroit. And so we'll see if he can come in and be what the Vikings hope he can be. But in the third round, 88th overall selection, defensive end out of LSU, Danielle Hunter for me is a double. I got questions, there are not answers right now, but there are a lot, and I mean a lot of raw ability here to play with. And as a coach, as an evaluator, as a general manager, that's all you can ask for. Give me the ingredients to be able to bake a beautiful cake, okay? Give me the ingredients and I'll do the rest. You take some of those ingredients away and I don't feel as good about my opportunity and what you can be. But you give me a guy with that kind of size, that kind of ability, that athleticism, I can do some things with that, and the Vikings feel like they can in the third round with Danielle Hunter. You go to the fourth round, 110th overall selection, offensive lineman out of Pitt, TJ Clemmings is the selection. This was a guy that we were talking about as a potential first round pick for much of the process. This is the second year in a row that I feel like the Vikings stole some merchandise later on in the draft they had no business getting their hands on at that point in the draft. Last year, the offensive lineman out of Stanford that they got, and I looked and I said, why is this guy still around? And the Vikings said, we don't know. We were asking the same question. We're going to hurry up and take him before somebody else notices he's still on the board. So it's a situation where they're getting away with it again. This is a talented football player. Let's talk about him. Big 6'5", 309-pound offensive lineman. He's got a lean frame. That's the next pro. I look at him and I'm like, man, you look awfully good for a 300-pounder. I mean, his frame is so well proportioned. He doesn't look like he's carrying a lot of extra weight. He's lean. He's muscularly built. I love seeing offensive linemen that look like the way he does, because he's not sloppy. There's not a lot of wasted extra space there. There's a lot of good things about the way he looks as a football player. He gets to the second level. And let's go ahead and lump the next pro in here, because to me they go hand in hand. He's athletically gifted. This is a guy that is an ex-defensive lineman, and I'll talk a little bit about that more when we get there, but he's a very athletically gifted football player, and you can see it on tape when he's getting to the next level, when he's blocking in the running game, and he's 15 yards down the field, and he's picking them up, putting them down. Running back is going off of one of his blocks, and they're 20 yards down the field, and this guy's making it look effortless. I mean, he's a gazelle out there. He's a big, light-footed ninja on the football field. This is a guy that I've really got high hopes for, and I think the Vikings do as well. You look at his next pro, he generates movement in the run game. He's big, he's agile, but he's also hostile. He's moving guys off the spot. I was surprised because I looked at his frame and I said, okay, your frame's a little lean, you're a raw football player. What you know about going up and bullying guys? And he said, man, I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you. And he was going up, picking guys up, moving them 3-4 yards, creating a new line of scrimmage. They got a running back there in their backfield that's a bruiser, and his name escapes me right now, but I'm gonna tell you what, that guy he wasn't the fastest dude, but he was running through arm tackles, he was bulldozing people, and he was running behind number 68 on a number of occasions, and he was getting a lot of yards. One tape I watched, he had over 230 yards rushing. A lot of those yards came behind TJ Clemmings, and for good reason, because he was generating space in the run game, creating a new line of scrimmage. He has outstanding upside, and I just told you he's an ex-defensive lineman, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit later on when we get to his cons. But I tell you what, man, the upside on this kid is alarming. I'm gonna tell you right now, he's going to be a starting tackle in this league. Would not surprise me if he ends up, look, Khalil has not been what you thought he was going to be for you, okay? Matt Khalil has been struggling, and that's being kind. At times, he's been downright putrid at left tackle, and that's not what you want to hear from a guy that you drafted in the top 10 to be an anchor. But that's just a fact. Right now, he has not lived up to expectations. I'll tell you right now, with a little bit of seasoning, pour a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and just a little bit of that extra stuff, that Old Bay seasoning. Shh, don't tell nobody, that's the secret ingredient. A little bit of that seasoning on this kid right here. I'm gonna tell you what, let Matt Khalil keep tripping. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you one more time, TJ Clemmings can start at left tackle in this league. Believe me now, believe me later. Now, we go to his cons. Weight distribution. These are all things that can be cleaned up with a little bit of fine tuning. You know what? I'm gonna list all 3 of his cons and I'm gonna break them down because they all make sense when I get to the last one. So I'm gonna just lump all these cons in together. Weight distribution is one. Hand placement is the second. He's raw is the third con. Now, so you see where I'm going with this. He's got weight distribution issues. So sometimes he gets too much of his weight on his back foot. There was one play, I forget the team I was watching him play against, and the guy literally throws TJ Clemmings, this is a big, physical, strong kid here, throws TJ Clemmings on the ground like he's, 195 pounds or something. I was like, God damn, what happened? Did he step on your foot or something? Nah, he got his weight all on the back leg, no front weight, so all the guy had to do was, push him down. He could have touched him, and TJ Clemmings went flying, and he had a direct line to the quarterback. So sometimes, and this doesn't happen often, but sometimes the weight distribution is uneven. He's off balance. Guys are allowed to get inside of him and get a free rush on the quarterback. So that can be cleaned up though. That can be attributed to him being raw. The next con, hand placement. Sometimes his hands are too narrow. They're in the same spot, okay? If you're offensive lineman, you need just like you need a base with your legs, with your feet, you need a base with your hands. You want your hands to be shoulder width apart, right here up under the pads. You want them right there, you want them inside. And so, if a guy knocks down one of your hands, you still got the other hand. That's still effective. It's still keeping them at bay. But if you got both your hands right here, and I swipe down on one, guess what? I got both of them. 2 for 1 special. I'm going to the quarterback. I see you on the next play. So, with him, hand placement is important because there were a couple of times I saw both the hands right here. What are we doing, diamond cutters or something? Get your hands and spread them out, man. Don't put them right here. So it's a one hit and go, much faster than slow. Trip to the quarterback, spread them out. And if they hit one down, if they chop one arm down, you still got one to defend yourself with, man. So hand placement, he can be taught better hand placement, man. That's simple. That's a simple tweak. And he's raw. And I talked about him being raw. Junior season, his redshirt junior season was his first year as an offensive lineman. Think about that for a second. 5 years in college. It wasn't until his 4th year in college that he started playing offensive line. And he turned out to be a big time, one of the best offensive linemen in Pittsburgh Panther history. 2 years, that's it. The man is raw, but the upside is tremendous. I'm gonna tell you right now, this young man has 1st round talent. And I'm telling you, the Vikings just gotta steal. They gotta steal. Now, the only reason he's not a home run here is because there's some things, he's raw, there's some things, and I don't know how fast he's gonna be able to contribute. But this is a home run pick down the road, I think. But for right now, in the 4th round, 110th overall selection, the offensive lineman out of Pitt, TJ Clemmings, is a triple. He was, boy, that hit the top of the fence. The yellow line was right here, the ball hit right there. He was right there. He tried to hit a home run. It's a triple for the Vikings, but this is a big time pick. And this one could have far-reaching consequences down the line. 5th round, 143rd overall selection, tight end out of Southern Illinois. Michael Pruitt is the selection. 6'2", 251-pound tight end. And this is a guy that's an athlete. That's the first pro. He's a 4'5", 140 guy, so he's moving. Saw that at the combine, was very impressed with him. I actually thought he had a really good day at the combine. Showed out well and showed that he belonged with his peers at the combine. And again, weak tight end draft, so it doesn't take much to stand out amongst the group. He did that at the combine. That's what he was supposed to do. Route running ability. I think he's a guy that can run some routes. They did a number of things with him at Southern Illinois. He was a guy that they flexed out. They had him out wide. They had him in the slot. They had him in tight to the line. They moved him around. He's an effective route runner, creates space with the routes that he runs. So this is a guy at 4'5", 140 and an excellent route runner. You put those two things together, guess what you end up with? Run after the catch, which is his next pro. Saw him catch the football, make guys miss, or just have a lot of space to run because he created separation and he's already running fast at 4'5", 140. How many guys at the linebacker position are running that fast to be able to keep up with you? And he ran a good route. He's got space. Yards after the catch usually comes with that territory. He's He's got solid hands. Didn't really see him drop the football. Thought that he could have made some more plays on the tapes that I watched, but his quarterbacking situation left a lot to be desired. He looked frustrated at times because he would get open, guys would airmail the football, wouldn't give him a chance to make plays. So I can tell he was a little frustrated with his quarterbacking situation, but hey, you do what you can do with what you got, and he did that at Southern Illinois. He's very versatile. I kind of talked about that already, how they flexed him out, put him at multiple positions on the field, moved him around. So there is versatility here, and the Vikings know that. That's why they drafted him, and they're going to try to take full advantage of that. Heavy collegiate production. Here's a guy that was voted, and this is when you know, A, the competition isn't that great, B, there's not a lot of history, and C, you're a damn good football player, okay? He was voted the greatest tight end in Missouri Valley Conference history. Not in the last 10 years, last 30 some odd years this conference has been around. He's the greatest tight end ever. Okay, so that tells you he's a good football player, but hey, I mean, really, what are we talking about here, okay? Now, he had 81 catches for over 800 yards and 13 touchdowns last year, so there's some big numbers there, okay? Those are some huge, lofty numbers. He's a guy with heavy collegiate production, so you know he can get it done at that level. The question is, can he get it done at the next level? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go to his cons. He needs to refine his blocking. I'm not impressed with him as a blocker, and he's a backup tight end though, so I don't need him to right away come in and be the guy. But as we all know, Kyle Rudolph is not opposed to missing 5 or 6 games in a season. You would love your backup tight end to be a jack of all trades, can block, can catch it, and do all the things you want him to do, because you can't trust Kyle Rudolph to stay healthy. So I love this kid to get better at blocking, and maybe he will at the next level, we'll see. But right now, his blocking leaves a lot to be desired. Go to his next con, level of competition. Look, I just told you he was the best ever in his conference, but is he that good? Is that going to translate to the NFL level? We shall see. Time will tell. And I want him to play with more sense of urgency. That's the last con. To me, he looked lackadaisical on tape at times. I'll give you an example. Quarterback is scrambling, rolling out, looking to buy time. He's got a little extra time. He ran a route that hooked up in the middle of the field. Quarterback escapes the pocket, runs out to his left. Instead of him kind of giving the quarterback a target to throw the football to, making himself available so the quarterback can have somewhere to throw the football, he's just standing there watching the quarterback run like, man, I was open 5 seconds ago, you should have threw it to me. Now you're on your own, I'm not running, I'm not trying to help you out, I'm just standing. I'm covered now. So you're on your own. And I'm like, man, go make yourself available, go do something, go be productive. He's just standing there. And I saw that way more than once or twice or 3 times. This was a habit of his, so that's something that I didn't like. I want him to play with more sense of urgency. I understand the quarterbacks aren't the best and they're overthrowing you and they're not finding you when you're open, but you still gotta play like your hair's on fire on every snap, and I don't feel like he does that at all times. But he's a good football player. I think there's some things you got to work on, especially blocking. If you're not going to be the guy, I need you to do some of everything well. He doesn't yet, but he's athletic, and you cannot deny that. And at this league, that wins more time than not. In the 5th round, 143rd overall selection, tight end out of Southern Illinois, Michael Pruitt, to me, is a double. He's a solid pick, a guy with some athleticism that can help you. Question now becomes, can he get better at other facets of the game to help him become a more complete tight end at the National Football League level? Next 5th round selection, 146th overall wide receiver out of Maryland, Stephon Diggs is the pick. This is a kid that I'm really infatuated with, and I feel like the Vikings have a lot of space for improvement at the wide receiver position. There's a guy that can help you with exactly that. 6 feet, 195 pound jitterbug. That's the first pro. There's a guy that is so, let's just go with the next 2 pros because they're so big in what this guy is as a football player. Devastating agility and lightning quickness with speed to match. Speed! 4'4", 640 guy. He can pick him up and put him down, but he's so quick. The agility is on 1,000. So he's making guys miss in short spaces. His short area quickness is beyond ridiculous. And he's the type of guy, joystick type of player like Dante Hall, guys out in space, stop, jump back, start again, 0 to 60 like that. That type of guy. So he's someone that can make some plays for you because of his quickness, and I think because of that quickness and him being a smaller guy, there's a spot for him on this team. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Good hands. Didn't see him drop a single pass that was in his vicinity. If it was close enough, he could get his hands on it. He was coming down with the football. He's a yakster. I don't have to tell you that. When I tell you that the quickness is electric, he's got speed, you know, bubble screens galore, hitches, quick routes, slants, all of those good things. Bag of goodies. Get this guy to football, watch him work. He's a yakster, you know it. Willing and able blocker. Look, he's not the biggest guy, but he's not afraid to mix it up. In fact, Maryland, actually, when they would put their 12 personnel, 13 personnel on the field, this guy would actually line up in the backfield sometimes as a lead blocker on plays. I saw a third and short play. They got 3 guys in the backfield, 2 lead blockers, he's one of them, and a running back who got the football on the play. And I'm like, you got Stephon Diggs? You're a 6 foot, 195 pound wide receiver in the backfield as a lead blocker? You said, you damn right we do. So that's how good they feel about this guy as a blocker. He's going to compete, he's going to get in the way, he's going to give it everything he's got. I can respect that big time. So, special teams value, here's a guy that has 2 career kickoff returns for touchdowns. You're getting immediate special teams value in a guy that can come in and return punts if need be, kickoffs for sure. And so you gotta love that about a guy that brings that kind of value to the table with him in the form of a 5th round pick. So that, to me, that's excellent value for the Vikings in the 5th round. Versatility. And this is a guy that played out wide at Maryland, but also dibbled in the slot. To me, that's where his life is going to be made in this league, is in the slot. Talk about that a little bit later. But this is a guy with versatility. Threw some passes at Maryland, can also, they threw him jet sweeps and they gave him tosses out of the backfield. So he ran the football, can catch it, can play out wide as an X or a Y, can be in the slot as a Z. Look, to me, he's a guy that you put all around the football field. You look at his cons. He needs to break more tackles. I felt like there was some yardage left out there though. Like he would make some guys miss in tight quarters, get out in open space, and there's a guy diving in his legs. I'm like, I know you're gonna make him miss. And he didn't. I'm like, that was odd. Okay, well, you'll make the next guy that tries to dive into legs miss. And then he wouldn't. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I just want to see him, because he's got the ability to turn a 7-yard play into a 77-yard play, but you gotta make that guy miss. Just want to see him break some more tackles. I'm being nitpicky here because he breaks tackles, he makes guys miss. I just want to see him break that last tackle that could spring him and put him and send him on his way. Find pay dirt. We're talking about a guy that was essentially a 3-year starter at Maryland, yet he only has 16 career touchdowns. So find pay dirt. 14 of those are receiving. 2 of those, I told you already, and I already mentioned, were kickoff returns. So I would like to see this guy. 1 year, he only had 3 touchdowns. Find pay dirt. You're too explosive, you're too, fidgety and twitchy to have only 16 career touchdowns in 3 years of production. So I'd love to see this guy find pay dirt more. And I think maybe at the next level in a Vikings offense where they got a quarterback that's mobile enough to get outside the pocket and extend plays, this guy might be able to make more plays and find pay dirt at the next level. But you look at the body of work that is Stephon Diggs, man. I'm excited about the prospects of him getting on this football team with the level of talent or lack thereof at receiver for this Vikings team. I like some of the stuff there. I really like Charles Johnson. I like him coming out of Grand Valley State. And to see what he did last year, I'm so happy for Charles Johnson. Now he's getting a chance to be the guy. I hope he doesn't drop the football on me, because now everybody's looking at you like, hey, you're our guy. Now, I want to see how the Vikings respond. You got some receivers. Now, you got about 2 or 3 guys you really trust. You add him to the mix. I really like what you're doing. You add a malcontent like Mike Wallace, 60 minutes to the mix. This is a guy that can work the slots right here. And I think that might be his calling card in this league. I don't want to put him in a box, but I think he's a slot guy. But in the 5th round, 146th overall selection, Stephon Diggs for me is a triple. I really like this kid. I like his body of work. I like what he brings to the table. And I like the niche that I feel like he can carve out for himself in this league, in this Vikings offense, as a deadly slot receiver. Slot receivers win in this league. You got a good one. You got a good offense. You win on 3rd downs. You win on 3rd downs. You score points. You score points. You win football games. Stephon Diggs is going to help you take steps to winning football games. Go to 6th round, 185th overall selection. Offensive lineman out of Oklahoma, Tyrus Thompson is the selection. 6'5", 324-pound offensive tackle. This is a guy that is dominant in the run game. He's a dominant run blocker. and his teammate, Darrell Williams, who was selected by the Carolina Panthers. To me, these two guys were the anchors of that Oklahoma Sooners offensive line that saw them open up some gaping rushing lanes for Samaje Perine. That guy was a stud in his freshman season, and it was because of guys like Tyrus Thompson opening up some big time 18-wheeler trucker lanes for this guy to run through. He generates movement in the run game. This is a big physical man. He moves guys against their will. That's what he does. You don't want to move, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Like the Rockies just said, it doesn't matter that you don't want to move 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. He's going to pick you up and dump truck you 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. Whether you want to or not, you're going to move. Physical punch. This is a big guy, and when he sits down and he extends those arms, you're going to feel it, okay? You're going to know you just got hit by Tyrus Thompson. He's got a physical punch that will take you from feeling good about your position, getting around the corner, to 5 yards up the field and not even being close to making a play. He's got a very physical punch, and he will use it, and it is very devastating when it hits home. He also can get to the second level, and look, anytime you have explosive rushers that get big gains in the run game, like Samaje Perine did at Oklahoma, guys are getting to the second level. Guys are having multiple efforts. That's the next pro. So let me lump these last two pros together. Multiple effort blocker. You get multiple efforts from guys who know that the guy behind them can make a 5-yard run turn into a 55-yard run for a touchdown. When I know the guy that I'm blocking for is a beast, and if I can get a piece of a second level guy, he can turn this thing into a big time run and a touchdown. Oh, you know I'm gonna go that extra mile. I'm gonna seal off this edge, then I'm gonna get out to the second level, get a piece of this linebacker, finish him off, and I know my running back's gonna do the rest. And he's a multiple effort blocker, so he can get to the second level, finish his job at the line of scrimmage, and then go for seconds, man. Who else can I eat up on this play? Go find him some crumbs on the second level. Crumbs! Eat them up. And next thing you know, running back's outside. What you gonna think, if this guy can get it together fast enough to get on the field, he can do the same thing for Adrian. And we know if Samaje Perine is eating those boys up at the college level, he just set the NCAA record for most rushing yards in a single game in 3 quarters of work, essentially. Almost didn't play the whole 4th quarter. What can Adrian put him some do? This is a dominant run block. You want to know why he's still here in the 6th round? Let's talk about it. Let's go to his cons. Struggles with speed that attacks his inside shoulder. As a tackle, you can't allow guys to get inside of you. Okay, he was a left tackle at Oklahoma, so if he's attacking your inside shoulder, that's a direct path to the QB inside. Now, to me, frankly, he struggles with speed, period. Speed to the inside, speed to the outside. It's all a problem for him. And let's go to his last con. He lunges, he overextends at times. So there's times when he gets lazy and he becomes what Mike Mayock has affectionately termed a heavy-legged waist bender. He'll get lazy on me. He'll start off good, and then next thing you know, he's giving me one of these numbers and he's doing this. Next thing you know, he's falling forward, guys behind him, and quarterbacks running for his life out of the pocket. He can get lazy and lunge on me. So speed and some laziness, and all of a sudden, now you got problems on the outside, guys, trying to get to your quarterback. It's not a good situation. So he's not the best pass protector, is essentially what I'm trying to say. He's adequate, but not good enough to be a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round pick. But in the 6th round, that's a steal for me. If you talk about having a dominant trait, this guy can block in the run game. You're talking about a guy that can come in. You might even be able to get away with kicking this guy to guard, but I like the fact that he can play outside, I think. I don't know if he's a left tackle per se, but maybe you sneak him over the right tackle. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want the best 5 offensive linemen on the field. If he qualifies as one of those guys down the road, I don't think he's going to help you right away. But in a year or two, maybe even decide to kick him inside the guard. This guy's dominant in the ranking. You got to find a way to get him on the field, whether it's in certain packages like the 49ers do with some of their offensive linemen. You got to find a way to get him on the field. But in the 6th round, 185th overall selection, Tyrus Thompson. Offensive lineman out of Oklahoma for me is a double. He's got a dominant trait. He can run block, okay? I know the pass department, he's not up to speed there yet, but it may never get there. But there's an elite trait here that you got to find a way to utilize. This guy moves people in the run game that has got to count for something. You go to the 6th round, 193rd overall selection defensive end out of Louisville. B.J. Du Bois is the pick, 6'4", 284-pound defensive end. He flashes quickness. This is a guy that every now and again will flash a quick jolt of quickness. You're like, whoa, okay. Didn't know you had that in the repertoire. And you're like, let me see that some more. And you're like, I don't know if you're going to see that again, but hey, I got it. You know I got it, right? You've seen it. So you know I can do that. Aggressive swim move. And that goes with the quickness that I just talked about. And I love when guys play against Florida State because what did they draft into the league this year? 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen got drafted into the league, which is insane. I mean, both tackles and both guards are now players in the National Football League and were drafted this past year. So when you play against Florida State, you're playing against LFL caliber players. And he did that, and I saw a swim move he put on one of their guards. He was giving them guys fits. I mean, he bull rushed Hart, their right tackle, into the backfield, about 4 or 5 yards into the backfield. He was a problem in that game. He was disrupting the timing of that Florida State offense. Didn't do enough to help his team win, but he did enough to help them have a big lead and watch their offense systematically throw that game away, and their defense at some point throw it away as well. But he did some things, and he showed a lot in that game and why he belongs in the National Football League. He's relentless. He doesn't give up on plays. He's not going to win a lot of times initially with his initial rush. He just doesn't have enough, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But he didn't quit, and because of that relentlessness, I saw him get a sack on one play where he spun in place. I can't stand when guys go in the spin cycle and end up in the same spot that they started their spin at. I mean, it's ridiculous. But he spun, he didn't go anywhere. Tackle's like, that was supposed to be a spin? Ha ha ha. And he said, okay, you think that's funny? I'm gonna keep coming, I'm gonna keep coming. Quarterback stood back there. Jameis Winston thought he had all year to throw. Slaps the hands down on the offensive lineman in front of him. Is able to get by him, puts a rush on Jameis Winston, crunches him with another teammate, gets him down for about 11-yard sack. So he's a relentless guy, doesn't give up, and that's something that you can appreciate from a defensive lineman. Great hand usage. He's got heavy hands. I just told you, he smacked the guy's hands down and was able to get to Jameis Winston and sack him. He has great hand usage and he has heavy hands. That is a combination and a recipe for disaster for offensive linemen. When a defensive lineman has heavy hands and knows how to use them, add B.J. Du Bois to a list of guys that knows how to use their hands coming into the National Football League in this 2015 NFL Draft. Started the point of attack. The only time I saw this guy moved off the line of scrimmage was when he was double teamed. Florida State put a vicious double team on him, moved him about 6 yards off the line of scrimmage, but that was about it. If he was one-on-one with a guy, he was standing his ground, and he did an excellent job of staying there at the point of attack. He's versatile. He played everywhere up and down that Louisville defensive line. He even stood up on occasion as a rusher. So this is a guy that you feel good about at the next level with the Vikings. If he makes this team, he's a guy that you put at left defensive end. You have him stop the run a little bit, maybe even get occasional pressure. And then in nickel situations and other packages, you slide this guy inside to defensive tackle and allow him to rush from that area and feel like you're getting a good mixture of rushers on the edge and guys with some speed and quickness to the inside to give some interior offensive linemen some problems. So this guy has versatility at the next level. His cons, no elite traits. And to me, that's why he's here in the 6th round, because he does a lot of things. He spun, even though it wasn't very effective, he spun. I saw this guy try to go outside, back inside. I saw this guy using swim moves, rip moves. He's got an array of moves, but none of them are elite. None of them flash at you and you say, damn, he's winning consistently with that. He just got a lot of stuff, a lot of moves in his bag of tricks. He just doesn't know how to use them, which takes us to our last con with this guy. He needs to develop a pass rush plan. He's got a plethora of moves. He just didn't have any rhyme or reason. I don't think he goes into a snap saying, okay, last 2 times I went hard outside, so now I'm gonna go hard outside and attack his inside shoulder, or I'm gonna just off the snap, go straight inside and see how he handles that. I think he just makes stuff up as he goes. They snap the ball and he's taking 2 steps and he says, how about a spin right now? That sounds good. And he spins and it doesn't work. He's like, okay, that didn't work. And then the next play he says, I'm gonna try to rip him this time. And that doesn't, he didn't have a plan. Have a plan when you're going up there, set guys up. That's what it's all about. It's a mental game as much as a physical one. He didn't have the mental aspect down right now, but he's got all the physical traits. He's got all the tools you need to be a winner. He just doesn't have the mental aspect down where he's psychologically winning and setting guys up and using moves. So right now, to me, this guy can play some football, and I like him in the 6th round. I like the value you get here at 193 overall. And so B.J. Du Bois, for me, out of Louisville, is a double. It's a solid pickup. I think this is a guy that could make this roster, give you some depth along that defensive line. And I like the things that he brings to the table. So we'll see what happens with him. In the 7th round, though, 228th overall selection, offensive lineman out of Alabama, Austin Shepard is the selection. He went to Alabama, so right there, you know, you're getting somebody that can play some football a little bit. 6'4", 315-pound offensive lineman. He played right tackle at Alabama. He's a physical, aggressive offensive lineman. One of those guys that is picking guys off the pile, that's pushing the pile forward. He's real physical, real aggressive, has a nasty streak in him. I like that. I like it a lot. And so he's one of those guys that you're glad he's on your team because he's a little extra physical, extracurricular type of guys. He's competitive. He's going to compete. No, he's not the most athletically gifted guy, and I'll talk about that later, but he's going to compete, man. He's going to get in your face. He's going to lay hands on you. He's going to give you everything he's got. And that leads me to my next guy. He's crafty. No, he's not an athletic wonder, okay? So when guys beat him to the inside, yeah, he's going to tug on a little jersey, maybe grab you in some spots where referee can't really see it, a couple of bodies around. And yeah, he's going to grab you and you like flailing and, hey, where the flag? Hey, I'm not holding him. What you talking about? I didn't hold anybody. He's crafty. Because when you're not athletic, you got to find ways to get by. And his ways is being crafty. Maybe I might knee you in your knee right here when you're trying to get by. And trip you up a little bit, you can't get to the quarterback. It don't look like a clip. I didn't stick my foot out, stuck my knee out there a little bit. I got a knee brace, I'll be all right. Maybe you trying to get by, you swim inside, you got some speed, you beat me. I'll give you a little tug of the jersey and then let you go. That half a second that I held your jersey for was enough for the quarterback to get the football. Crafty dude, okay? At the next level, I don't know if he's gonna get away with it, but he got away with it at Alabama. He's versatile. I watched a game, I think it was Auburn, where he starts off the game at right tackle, and that's his natural position. And I look up and the dude is at left tackle. I'm like, wait a minute. How'd you get over there? Injury happens, they move him around, and he was over there holding it down. Now again, I don't want this guy at left tackle, not at the next level. I don't even know if I want him at right tackle at the next level. Probably feel more comfortable if he was at guard. But at the end of the day, the fact that he can play both tackle positions and kick inside and play guard as well, the more you can do, especially when you're a 7th round pick, the longer you can stick in this league. And he played in the SEC, that's his last pro. That counts for something right there. I mean, I'm looking around and I'm looking at all the 7th round tackles that are available. And if I'm Rick Spielman, I say, all right, you played in the Pac-12, you played in the Big Ten, you played in the SEC. Let me get him. All right, if all things are equal, considering, I'm taking the guy that played in the SEC because I know he's playing against NFL caliber players just about every single week. And if he can hold it down at tackle out in space and switch positions, got yourself a winner, man. Let me get his cons real quick. Athletically limited, I already talked about it. This is not a guy that's going to wow you with what he does athletically. In fact, he is very limited from an athletic standpoint. So much so that his next con is, I think he might be better suited at the next level as a guard. I don't think he can survive with all the athletic freaks that we have outside at defensive end and outside linebacker. I don't think he can survive in the modern NFL with his lack of athleticism. Speed is a problem. I think speed to the outside, to the inside against the guy. I saw him consistently beat to the inside. Not as much to the outside, but definitely to the inside. He got away with a lot of holds. When he got beat to the inside, he resorted to holding. I don't blame him. I'm not going to let you hit my quarterback, but that's a problem, and I don't think he can survive in the league as a tackle necessarily. But I think he can stick as a guard, but his versatility might make the Vikings feel just required to give this guy a shot. And in the 7th round, because he played in the SEC, because he competes, because I feel like his versatility gives him some staying power, he's a double in the 7th round, is offensive lineman out of Alabama, Austin Shepard. You go to the final pick in this long and very active Vikings draft, 7th round, 232nd overall selection, linebacker out of Newberry. Edmund Robinson is the selection, 6'2", 245-pound athletic linebacker. He's a long, sturdy, framed guy. I look at his frame and I say, man, you look impressive. You look at him and he's an athletic guy. That's the next pro. 4'6", 140 guy. Came to the combine, showcased some skills, had a broad jump of over 10. So this is a guy that is very athletic. Run and chase linebacker, okay? He's a guy that's gonna run, chase down a guy from behind, make a tackle that way. Not necessarily gonna take on blockers and win a lot of times, but he's a run and chase linebacker. Coverage ability. This is a guy that out in coverage, I think he can handle himself. 4'6", gives you the impression that he can. The one tape that I was able to get my hands on this kid, and it was an ugly tape, it was very nasty to watch. But he was out in coverage quite a bit. They had him split out wide, they had him in the slot. He was all over the field. They felt really confident with him being out in coverage. Versatility, I just told you he's all around the football field, and I think the Vikings see him as a guy that maybe in some nickel and sub packages, he can be on the field, close to the line of scrimmage, checking some tight ends and some slot guys on the field. Special teams value, the only way this guy makes the team in the 7th round is as a special teams demon. That's his best opportunity. He's going to have to take advantage of it. His cons, he's not a playmaker. Right? He didn't make any plays on the tape that I watched. I looked up all of his stats and read about him. He's not a playmaker, okay? This isn't a guy that's going to pick passes off, force fumbles, none of that. He's not a playmaker. More sense of urgency. I want to see this guy play with more sense of urgency. There were too many times on tape where I'm watching him. He's in coverage, he's in space, and it just doesn't seem like he's running as fast as he could be. He's a 4'6", 140 guy. There's one play where there's a guy running an out route. He's in pursuit. The guy kind of breaks his tackle. They're going down the sideline, and the guy just takes off and runs for a touchdown. I'm like, you couldn't have caught him. You couldn't have made that tackle. It just seemed, there was another play. Guy catches the football literally about 5 steps away from him, and he doesn't even make an attempt to tackle him. He's like, oh, my teammates got him. They'll take care of it. And I just didn't feel like, you know, my Louie T prerequisite for guys that play at small schools, that if I'm watching the tape, I want to see. I got one prerequisite, that's it. Dominate the competition. So if I turn on the tape, I'm supposed to know exactly who I'm watching. I didn't feel that way when I saw this kid. I looked at him and I said, which one of these guys is Edmund Robinson? Number 30? Okay, I got to look and find number 30 on the tape because he didn't stick out to me. And for you out there who have been watching me, you know that's a big problem for me. Level of competition, that goes without saying. He played at Newberry College, okay? Enough said. So for me, he didn't stick out like a sore thumb. He's athletic. He's got some tools that may be beneficial to him at the next level, but I just didn't see enough on tape. And I saw some good things at the combine, saw some things that he was able to do on tape, but it wasn't enough there to make me feel like this guy's going to find a way onto the roster and then make an impact. I don't see him making his team. If he's on a practice squad, maybe he gets an opportunity that way. We'll see. But in the 7th round, to round out this draft, 232nd overall selection, linebacker out of Newberry College, Edmund Robinson for me is a single to round out this Vikings draft. It was another tremendous haul for Rick Spielman and company. Let's talk about what they were able to accomplish with these selections as we get into their score. A home run to start, a bunch of triples, 3 to be exact, which earns them a triples bonus, so 4 triples in all. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles in this draft by the Minnesota Vikings. So Rick Spielman really getting some good value throughout this draft. That nets you 3 more doubles for bonuses, and then you finish up the draft with a single in the 7th round in Edmund Robinson. So you add all of that up, 33 points in all. You divide by 10. That's easy 3.3 triple for the Minnesota Vikings. Skull! Vikings, as they go out and get another big time haul. I think these guys are going to come in and contribute just like the last crop did last season. And you look up and you got some guys that are going out and playing good football. And bada bing, bada boom, you're right there sniffing around the NFC North division crown. So we'll see. I mean, if guys stay healthy, these guys contribute. The guys from last year, the guys before the year before that, everybody starts doing their job. Vikings could be a team on the rise in the NFC conference, not just their division, in the conference. And so it's going to do it for the Minnesota Vikings in their 2015 NFL Draft wrap-up. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Who's next? There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.